All right, let's jump right in. Today we're looking at the life and conquests of Genghis Khan.
Definitely a big topic.
We've got some excerpts here from The Ruthlessness of Genghis Khan, Secrets of His Conquests.
Sounds promising.
And we're going to try to figure out what made this guy tick.
Yeah, how did he build this huge empire
Yeah.
from basically nothing? And, what is his real legacy?
To help us figure all of that out, we've got expert speaker with us.
Glad to be here.
So Genghis Khan, that wasn't his name when he was born, was it?
Nope.
What was that?
Temujin.
Temujin.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, and so think about the Mongolian steppes, just this really harsh landscape.
Yeah.
And that's where he grew up. I mean, his early life, it was full of just hardship and betrayal.
Betrayal, how so?
Well, his father was poisoned, and then his clan just abandoned him.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a rough childhood.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's rough.
And so all these early experiences, I mean, they really must have shaped him.
Yeah, I was gonna say that had to have some sort of impact.
Oh, absolutely. It like forged his ambition and his ruthlessness.
Yeah.
There's even this story,
Okay.
and it's debatable whether it's true or not, but the story goes that he killed his own half-brother during this time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was all about a power struggle and, I mean, just to survive.
Right. Yeah.
So it gives you kind of a glimpse into the kind of man he was becoming even back then.
So even early on, we're already seeing this ruthless side of him,
Okay.
and then he sets out to unite the Mongol tribes.
Right.
Now, this wasn't exactly a peaceful unification, was it?
Not exactly. No.
Yeah.
It wasn't like everybody decided to just get along all of a sudden.
Okay.
He formed alliances, sure, but he also completely wiped out any tribe that refused to join him.
So a little bit of a carrot and stick approach.
Yeah, basically. And, Genghis Khan, he understood the power of fear.
Yeah.
I mean, if you annihilate your enemies, then the next tribe in line is going to think twice before they even try to resist you.
It's a brutal strategy, but
Just
I
about,
mean,
eh?
it's effective.
It is very effective.
Yeah. It's almost like he was playing chess, but with people's lives, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And he seemed to always be a few moves ahead.
And he conquered a huge amount of territory.
Oh, yeah.
So he must have been a skilled military leader.
Oh, he was brilliant. Take the Tumen system, for example.
Okay.
He organized his army into these units of 10,000 men.
Wow. 10,000.
Yeah, it was this incredible system. It allowed for just amazing speed and coordination.
Okay, so they could get around fast.
Yeah, think of it like a super mobile fighting force that could strike really quickly and then vanish just as fast.
Right.
Nobody could keep up with them.
It's fascinating. I remember reading about their feigned retreats.
Oh, yeah.
Was that another tactic that he used?
Totally. I mean, imagine you're up against this force that seems like it can't be stopped,
Right.
and then suddenly they start retreating. So you think you've won.
Yeah, you let your guard down.
Exactly. And then, bam, they turn around and crush you.
Oh, wow.
It was psychological warfare at its best.
Right. So they're not just defeating armies, they're breaking the will to fight.
Yeah, basically.
Our source material here talks about the siege of Nishapur,
Right.
and apparently something like over 1.7 million people were killed.
The numbers are just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's hard to even wrap your head around that.
And you have to wonder if those numbers weren't inflated for a reason.
Okay,
Word spreads about this absolute destruction,
sure.
and it sends a message.
Yes, surrender or be destroyed.
Exactly.
So even if the numbers were exaggerated,
Yeah.
the message was clear.
It got through.
It wasn't just about brute force and fear, though, right? I mean, this
Right.
guy had a whole network of spies.
Oh, yeah, he was amazing at gathering intelligence.
So how did that work?
His spies, they would infiltrate enemy territory, learn everything about their defenses,
Yeah.
their weaknesses, even their internal politics.
Oh, wow. So he knew what they were up to.
Yeah, he knew his enemies better than they knew themselves.
It's like something out of a spy novel.
Right.
And he even used merchants and diplomats as spies.
Yep, it's a tactic that's still used today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you blend in, you look harmless, but all the while, you're gathering information.
Very clever.
It was. And that element of surprise,
Yeah.
that's a key part of his success.
That makes a lot of sense. And here's something that I always found kind of intriguing. His religious tolerance.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect that from a leader known for being so ruthless.
Well, it might seem strange, but think about it from a strategic point of view.
Okay.
By letting conquered people practice their own religions, he basically minimized resistance, and it helped ensure their loyalty.
Right.
And it also made it a lot easier to actually govern all these different territories.
So it was less about religious freedom and more about
Yeah.
pragmatism.
Exactly. He understood that ruling this giant empire took more than just military power.
Right.
He had to keep those people content and under control.
He was a leader who knew how to play the long game.
That's for sure.
And speaking of the long game, his revenge against the Khwarezmian Empire was epic.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Sure.
It all goes back to this incident where a Khwarezmian governor executed some Mongol envoys.
I see.
And that was like a huge insult to Genghis Khan.
Right, of course.
He wasn't going to just let that slide.
No way.
No. And so it became his reason, his justification for launching a full-scale invasion.
Okay.
It wasn't just about conquering territory anymore. It was personal.
Yeah, it was revenge time.
Big-time retribution on a grand scale.
Yeah. Wow. And the Khwarezmian Empire, I mean, they really paid the price.
Oh, yeah. Cities were destroyed, entire populations wiped out.
It's a stark reminder of just how destructive Genghis Khan could be.
It really is. But it wasn't just about brute force either.
Yeah.
The Mongols were masters of what you might call environmental warfare.
Environmental warfare. Okay, I'm curious, what does that mean in this context?
Well, think about it like cutting off water supplies, strategically laying siege to cities, and then using the natural resources of those conquered areas to fuel their campaigns.
So they were adapting to the environment, using it to their advantage.
Exactly. They were incredibly adaptable, able to thrive in all these different environments.
So they weren't just going in and destroying everything, they were being strategic about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't just the Mongol soldiers themselves, right?
Right.
They incorporated conquered people into their forces, didn't they?
They did. They were really good at assimilating new people.
So how did that work?
They would absorb skilled craftsmen, soldiers, anyone who could be of use,
So they're getting bigger and stronger all the time.
Yeah, and this constant influx of new talent and knowledge, well, it's one of the reasons why their empire grew so quickly and lasted as long as it did.
That's really interesting. I never thought about it that way. It's like they were constantly evolving, absorbing the strengths of their enemies.
Yeah, it's kind of ingenious when you think about it.
It really is.
And it speaks to their pragmatism, too. They weren't
Oh.
just interested in wiping everyone out,
They had a bigger goal.
right? They were building an empire. And that takes manpower, skills, knowledge, all the things they could get from the people they conquered.
It's fascinating how Genghis Khan could be so brutal, but also such a shrewd leader.
Yeah, he was a real paradox.
He really understood how to build and maintain power.
He did. But his legacy, it's complicated.
Oh, it's incredibly complicated. There's no denying all the death and destruction.
Millions of people died, entire civilizations were destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, right now, that's all I can think about is the brutality.
But there is another side to it.
Okay, what is it?
Well, think about the Silk Road.
Okay.
Genghis Khan's unification of all those territories. It created this period of stability, however brutal it was,
Right.
that led to this revitalization of trade and cultural exchange between the East and the West.
I see.
Ideas, technologies, goods, they all flowed more freely.
So, out of all that chaos and bloodshed, something positive emerged.
In a way, yes. It's a really complex legacy. You can't just erase the violence, but you also can't ignore the unintended consequences. And some of those consequences, they had a lasting positive impact on the world.
It makes you realize that history is rarely black and white.
That's for sure. It's full of shades of gray.
It makes you question all those simple stories we hear about good guys and bad guys.
Exactly. It's never that simple.
It's never that straightforward.
And that's what makes studying history so fascinating.
It does.
It challenges us to really grapple with all those complexities of the past.
And it's interesting to think about how Genghis Khan's legacy is still being debated by historians today.
It is.
I mean, some people see him as a visionary leader and others see him as a ruthless tyrant.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
Well, his story, it's like a Rorschach test.
Yeah.
People see what they want to see.
Right.
And there's evidence to support both sides,
Yeah. Yeah.
He was incredibly innovative. I mean, he implemented this legal code called the Yasa
Yeah.
that actually promoted religious tolerance and meritocracy.
Okay.
But at the same time, he was responsible for just unthinkable brutality.
It's almost like he embodies that idea that history is written by the victors.
That's a great point.
We're getting his story filtered through the lens of whoever decided to write about him. And those people probably had their own agenda.
Oh, definitely. We have to remember that history, it's a narrative.
Yeah.
And the person who's telling the story matters.
It makes a big difference.
It does. And so we need to be critical of the sources we look at and try to find different perspectives and then try to piece together the most accurate picture we can.
Like putting together a puzzle.
Exactly. It's like detective work trying to uncover the truth behind all the myths and legends.
And especially with someone like Genghis Khan, who's such an enigma.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that he died in 1227,
Right.
but The circumstances surrounding his death,
Mm-hmm.
it's a mystery.
And there are all those stories about his burial site being a secret,
Oh, yeah.
that they killed anyone who saw the funeral procession.
Right, and that they diverted a river to hide his grave.
Stuff like that.
It's almost mythical, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it shows you the power of his image.
Yeah.
You know, the fear and the reverence that he inspired.
Right.
He was a master of strategy and secrecy in life.
Yeah.
And it seems like even in death, he wanted to keep that aura of mystery.
So he left us with one final puzzle to solve.
It seems like it.
We've talked about his military genius, his ruthlessness, his political skills.
Yeah.
But what about Genghis Khan, the man?
Right.
I mean, what was he like beyond the battlefield and all the political maneuvering?
Yeah, it's a question that's puzzled historians for a long time.
Yeah.
The sources we have, they give us these little glimpses, into his personality, but they're often contradictory.
Okay.
He was known for being charismatic and for inspiring incredible loyalty in his followers.
Our source mentions that he was a devoted family man.
Right.
Which seems kind of at odds with the
Yeah.
whole ruthless conqueror image.
It does, but it's true. He valued family a lot. He was a father, husband, brother, and, he was navigating this world where alliances were constantly shifting and betrayal was always a threat.
It's hard to reconcile those two extremes, the
Yeah.
loving family man versus the guy who caused so much destruction.
It is a paradox, but it speaks to the kind of leadership that was needed back then.
Yeah.
Personal relationships and politics, they were all mixed up.
Sure.
And survival could depend on making some tough choices, even brutal ones.
So was he a monster or a visionary?
Well, maybe that's the whole point. History doesn't always give us easy answers.
Right.
Genghis Khan, he defies simple categorization.
Yeah.
He was a product of his time, shaped by the realities of life on the steppe.
Right.
But he also went beyond those limitations. He built an empire that stretched across continents, and he left a mark that we still feel today.
Thinking about his rise to power, I mean, he went from being an abandoned child to the leader of the largest land empire in history.
Yeah, it's an incredible story.
It almost feels like a Shakespearean play.
It does have that classic underdog story.
Yeah.
Overcoming adversity driven by ambition and sheer willpower.
But there's a dark side to that ambition.
There's a cost to his victories.
It's a reminder that history is made by real people,
Yes.
with all their flaws and all their complexities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan wasn't just some two-dimensional character. He was driven by so many things. Ambition, revenge, maybe even a desire to make the world a better place in his own way.
Yeah, and that's what makes studying history so interesting.
It is.
It's not just about memorizing dates and names, it's about understanding why people did what they did.
Right.
And what impact their choices had on the world.
And it's about learning from the past.
Even the parts that are hard to look at.
Exactly. Genghis Khan's story, it's a warning about what can happen when ambition goes unchecked and the terrible consequences of war.
But it also shows us the power of human will.
That's true. The potential for innovation and change.
He brought all those tribes together.
Yeah.
He created a powerful empire.
And he even fostered a period of peace and prosperity, even though it was built on violence.
So where do we go from here? How do we make sense of his complicated legacy?
I think it starts by embracing nuance.
Nuance.
Yeah. Recognizing the brutality, but also seeing the complexities and the unintended consequences that came from his conquests.
So looking beyond those simple good guy, bad guy stereotypes.
Exactly. Because history is rarely black and white.
It's full of shades of gray.
It is. And who knows, maybe someday we'll find his final resting place, and that could shed some new light on this really enigmatic figure.
Yeah.
But even if we never find it, the search to understand Genghis Khan, the man and the myth, will continue.
Yeah, it's a reminder that history is an ongoing conversation.
Yes.
This is a journey of discovery that never really ends.
It really doesn't.
We're left with these questions about his motivations, his impact, the man behind the legend.
And those unanswered questions, that's part of what makes history so fascinating.
I agree.
It makes us want to explore and question and imagine.
Well, we've definitely done a lot of exploring today.
We have.
I feel like I understand Genghis Khan so much better now, but I also have even more questions than I did before.
That's the great thing about a deep dive like this.
Yeah.
It makes you curious. It challenges your perceptions, and it leaves you wanting to learn more.
Well, thanks to Expert Speaker for taking us through this really complex and fascinating part of history.
It is my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring the life and legacy of Genghis Khan. Think about what motivated him. What lessons can we learn from his victories and his defeats?
The past is full of stories waiting to be told and retold.
Yeah.
And sometimes the most interesting stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
So keep seeking knowledge, keep questioning what you think you know, and keep that spirit of curiosity alive. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Genghis Khan. We'll see you next time for another exciting exploration.